hello.
Hello.
Are you?
Yes, I'm Gina Shakespeare from the YouTube channel Declassified.
Yeah, I know Declassified, but why are you here?
Well, actually, that bloke let me in.
You mean Matt?
Yeah, the blonde guy with the blue eyes.
Right. So, what are you doing at my desk?
Well, I'm doing some research for Declassified about Chinese Communist Party subversion of the US, and I figured China Uncensored would be the place to go.
So you infiltrated my studio and hacked into my computer?
Well, actually, the blonde guy gave me the password.
Matt! Well, since you're here anyway, did you find anything good?
Oh, I sure did on your computer. Basically, I have put together 5 ways that China is subverting America.
Great. Let's take a look.
All right, let's start with number 5, government officials. The Chinese Communist Party wants to get in good with US government officials, and if that doesn't work, they put pressure on them. For example, they've got people like US Senator Dianne Feinstein, you know the name. China's former leader, Jiang Zemin, spent years building a relationship with her.
World's most uncomfortable karaoke night.
Yes. Feinstein's husband enjoyed big business profits in China, and meanwhile, Senator Feinstein supported legislation like giving China most favored nation status to increase trade. Also, her driver was allegedly a spy.
Feinstein's a pretty obvious case, but not every U.S. official is like that.
Correct. You know, sometimes it takes more pressure. For example, last summer, California State Senator Joel Anderson wanted to pass the SJR 10. It was a state resolution condemning the Communist Party's persecution of Falun Gong practitioners. But then the Senate suddenly blocked it right before it was about to come to a vote. It turns out a bunch of senators received a threatening email that morning from the Chinese consulate in San Francisco. It warned them about the SJR 10, saying it could sabotage the friendship and sustainable development between California and China.
Right, because passing a law through a democratic vote, that's what sabotage is.
Friends don't let friends call out each other's human rights abuses, Chris. And that kind of pressure happens all the time. Anyway, moving on. Number 4, businesses. The Chinese Communist Party has been pretty successful at pressuring American companies. For years, one of the rules of doing business in China is that foreign companies have to share their technology secrets with local Chinese companies.
You'd think that companies wouldn't make these kind of stupid deals.
Yeah, except they're scared that if they don't, their competitors will. So a lot of companies feel they have no choice. Fortunately, the US government has recently called China out on this, because when it happens on a large scale, it becomes a big drain on the US economy.
And of course, if a company resisted sharing their technology with China, the Chinese military would, how should I put it, enforce the sharing anyway.
Exactly.
IP theft cost America hundreds of billions of dollars a year, maybe trillions.
And we haven't even talked about the subversion they do from inside the US, which is directly planting spies, especially in the tech industry. So Chinese employees can be pressured to be part-time spies and provide information or technology to their handlers who work for China's Ministry of State Security. Sometimes they do it because there's pressure on their families inside China, or they do it for patriotism or just for the money. Non-Chinese employees can also do it for the money. So the US loses a lot of technology to China. It's a big issue.
At least we get entertaining Chinese knockoffs like the Ivanhoe 6.
Do you have one of those?
No, I have the Ivanhoe 8.
You can't make this stuff up. Number 3, universities. Universities in the US love having international students from China. They pay full tuition, and of course, it's a great way for the Chinese students to get introduced to American culture.
Except a lot of them aren't really integrating that much.
Yeah, there's one possible reason why. Basically, the Chinese embassy and consulates try to maintain a tight grip on these students. For example, they set up the Chinese Student and Scholar Associations. On the surface, they're about welcoming and caring for Chinese students. But there are also ways to track and monitor students to make sure they hold the correct political views.
Like that Taiwan is a province of China, and the people who criticize human rights abuses are anti-China.
Basically, people like you, Chris, who are undermining China's harmonious society.
Strangely, no one says that your Declassified channel is undermining America's harmonious society.
But that's because America can take truth bombs, plus it's not communist. Anyway, there are other ways the Chinese Communist Party is subverting American universities, like the Confucius Institutes.
As Confucius said, political power grows out of the barrel of a gun. Or maybe that was Mao Zedong.
That was Mao Zedong. That's not too far from what they're actually teaching. Confucius Institutes give money to Chinese universities to host their Chinese language classes, but in the course material they present a pro-communist view of China's development. And of course they're conveniently avoiding sensitive topics.
Teacher, how do you write the characters for Free Tibet?
And there's another way American universities are being undermined. Some people in academia have submitted to a sophisticated global censorship regime. One student told the New Republic, "I will not willfully do anything that would endanger my ability to get a visa to China in the future."
In other words, don't be like Chris Chappell.
Speaking of which, number 2, journalism. As you know, the Chinese Communist Party has the 3 warfares doctrine. We've talked about this on Declassified.
And China Uncensored.
Okay. The first warfare is about shaping public opinion, both inside China and around the world. For example, they allow big booming cities, yes. Polluted cancer villages, not so much. And if reporters cross the line, they get kicked out of China, so news organizations self-censor just like some academics do. And over time, American public opinion on China gets skewed in favor of Beijing's narrative. You even get American media publishing opinion pieces like this.
I mean, really, all America needs to do to become superior again is silence public opinion, take away rights, and throw 1 million people in re-education camps for their religion.
Of course, foreign newspaper reporters in China don't usually praise the Communist Party directly. That's the job of the state-run China Daily, like when they put out these paid inserts into influential papers like the Wall Street Journal.
Come on, who wouldn't want another great leap forward? It only killed 45 million people.
And speaking of propaganda, number 1, meddling in US elections. We always knew that the Chinese Communist Party wants to direct US policy towards China, but now US officials have started talking about the Chinese Communist Party trying to influence US elections as well.
China has initiated an unprecedented effort to influence American public opinion, the 2018 elections, and the environment leading into the 2020 presidential elections.
But the Chinese Communist Party's influence operations are different from countries like Russia. Here's one example. One of America's biggest exports to China is agricultural products like soybeans and pork. When the Chinese regime put tariffs on US soybeans and pork, farmers who were more likely to vote for President Trump were the most affected. And then, when Chinese state-run media place ads in US newspapers, calling the US-China trade war the fruit of a president's folly, while they want those farmers to change their minds about Trump.
For an authoritarian regime, the Chinese Communist Party is surprisingly good at manipulating democracy.
While we don't know yet all the ways the Chinese Communist Party is influencing US elections, hopefully US officials will say more about this in the future.
Well, that's a pretty scary list, Gina.
It is, and I think Vice President Mike Pence did a good job of summing it all up.
The Chinese Communist Party is rewarding or coercing American businesses, movie studios, universities, think tanks, scholars, journalists, and local, state, and federal officials.
But the real question is, how can we influence American businesses, movie studios, universities, think tanks, journalists, and government officials?
Well, I guess everyone will have to watch China Uncensored.
And what can Americans do to learn more about this?
Well, viewers can check out my YouTube channel, Declassified. This is a channel where we expose corruption, especially in American politics.
So click the link below and head over to Declassified to learn more.
Once again, I'm Gina Shakespeare. Thank you for watching
China Uncensored.
Declassified.
More power.
More power?
Yeah.
Declassified.
Thanks for watching China Uncensored. Declassified.
Once again, I'm Gina Shakespeare.
Thanks for watching this episode of China Uncensored.
Declassified.
No, force.
Once again, I'm Gina
host, Chris.
Shakespeare. Thank you for